Hey, hi everybody, how's it going? Welcome to the Sunday live stream and happy Easter to everyone that celebrates that. It's Easter Sunday for us here. And sorry for starting a little late again, as always. But man, I've already had a pretty long weekend, relatively speaking. What versus what I normally do is nothing. I hope everyone can see and hear me. I was just letting Ellie out, so that's why I wasn't even sitting in the chair. I forgot the video ends, and then I just come up automatically. But okay, let me get orientated. I'm just rushing. I just woke up maybe an hour or so ago, and uh, I'll tell you what I did this weekend. I went out with uh, I've been talking about doing some astrophotography with Ben Chappelle in Pennsylvania, and I was supposed to go out next weekend, but it looks like it's going to be raining all weekend. If not most of the week. So, he said, "Hey, tonight's clear." So I said, "Okay." So I just drove up there. Fortunately, it was only about a 2-hour drive, so it's not bad at all. I mean, I've taken longer to get into some jobs uh, than driving up there, to be honest. And he was very, very gracious and spent a lot of time with me. And I'm very grateful to him and his family for um, hosting me there at his home. And I just had a great time. And anyway, we went to the observatory and we did some night photography or astrophotography, I should say. And I did one long exposure that I posted on Instagram. It's just a simple live comp with the star trails. Really, the first time I've done that myself. I mean, I've tried a couple of times in my backyard, but uh, they're just crap. I don't think I even posted those. I may have, but finally, I got one where the stars are kind of rotating around in a circle. And I think I let it run for about 20, 30 minutes. And the image on Instagram doesn't do the photo justice. I did a little bit of editing, but I didn't post the one I edited. I always like to try to show straight out of camera images on my Instagram. I edit time to time, but for the most part, um, like I said, I think it's always important to see uh, what the base exposure is that you start with before you start editing, and getting it as right in camera as you can for the exposure that you want, and then you can edit to your heart's content from there. I preach a lot, get it right in camera, but I'm not saying the final image has to be right in camera. What I'm saying is you want to get the image as close as possible to your final vision of what that scene looked like in camera, so that when you go to edit it, it's a lot less work, right? And you're not trying to fix problems, but you're just trying to enhance the vision that you have. Um, so I don't want to. I just want to make that kind of clear because I got some comments about, not directly to me, but I read comments all the time about getting it right in camera doesn't mean anything. It's like because you can edit and post and get what you want, and everybody edits and post and blah blah blah. I mean, there's arguments to both sides, but digital cameras are not like uh, film cameras, right? Where you really had to get it right in camera with film, and then if you're really good, like Ansel Adams, at post processing in a dark room, great. But uh, film just didn't have that same flexibility, I think. But nonetheless, you get a really good image in camera, whether it's on film or digital. It makes post processing so much easier, and that's where I am. I mean, I always like to get straight out of camera final images, like what my final vision is, because we have so much control over the different settings. Highlight, shadows, sometimes midtones, saturation, and then the various art filters really do a lot of post processing for you. And we have probably at least a dozen, if not 2 dozen, ways to use art filters in our cameras. And, I'm a big advocate of that personally for myself. I really enjoy processing and doing everything while I'm on the scene, looking at it with my own eyes, and then comparing it to what I captured in camera, and then doing a little bit of processing there if I need to. So when I get home, I can just, upload and post to Instagram or Facebook or wherever, social medias. I generally post on Instagram, sometimes Flickr. Anyway, I learned a lot. I learned a lot from Ben this weekend about astrophotography, because there's sort of that academic knowledge, right, where you watch or read about, YouTube. You watch on YouTube or you read about online or in books how to do astrophotography. And when you get in the field, it's a whole different experience. It's like, suddenly you just you learn all these little tricks or tweaks that you don't see online or in books. Um, and I'm gonna have to sit down, and I should have wrote notes yesterday when I got back home, uh, or while I was there, as a matter of fact. But it'll come back to me because it's pretty straightforward. Astrophotography, like any other kind of photography that you want to learn to do, whether it's sports action, landscape, architectural, like I do, there's a certain core base processes that you do uh, for each kind of scene. And then once you kind of get I'd say that base foundation of how that kind of photography or methodology is, a systematic approach to things. Once you have sort of that baseline, then you can kind of, start to make some variables, right? Adjust for variables, I should say, to get the best image, or to get the image that you want from your camera. Um, and as for photography, I'm sort of just starting to build that core base, right, of knowledge or methodology, so that when I approach, a sky, if I'm going to take a picture, say, of Orion Nebula, which is right now is kind of the only thing I can see from my backyard, um, I have a base system now, to do that. And then practicing, right, from there, I'll get better and better at that. And the thing with astrophotography is that it's really about the process, not the final image. The final image is the goal, to get the best final image that you can, and then expand from there. But it's not like other types of photography, like landscape or sports action, where that picture is unique at this point in time, right? Unless you get lucky and get a comet or something, anomalies aside, in astrophotography, the final image, somebody's done it with much more expensive gear, much more expertise, and has gotten extremely high resolution, amazing images of certain, um, you know, targets in the sky, right? Deep sky targets. And all you can do is try to get to that point, right? To where your images are as good. But you're not going to create anything new, really, as far as I can tell. I'm not a hardcore astrophotographer. Maybe there's a whole area there that I don't know about, where you are creating unique images of the Orion Nebula. But for the most part, I think all of us are going to get the same image if we're pointing our camera at the same point in time in sky. So it's really about the process, and that process is just fascinating, because you learn so much about uh, how digital cameras work, particularly what kinds of noise that cameras generate that happen in no other kind of photography. Um, So I was amazed, and then you learn a lot about our universe as well, right? Like, why is that star blue? Why is that one red? Why is this one glowing? Why is this one, why is this nebula look this way and this nebula look that way? Uh, and if you're into uh, that kind of thing, it's really fascinating. And I am, generally speaking, I've always, looked at the stars and said, "Wow, that's just amazing. What's going on up there?" So you have to have a certain amount of curiosity about the sky as well to really get the most out of this particular niche of photography, being astrophotography. Um, because when I started, you start with simple targets like the moon, right? And I got a couple of shots of the moon that I was pretty happy with, and then I was thinking, well, I've done it. Why would I do it again? How many full moons or quarter moons or half moons can you take, right? Before you just say, okay, this is the best I can do with the gear that I have. But now I look at the moon very differently, and seeing that, looking at my old images, I'm thinking, wow, I could do so much better even with the existing gear that I have. Um, Being that I've now included a tracker in my gear, because the tracker is really makes a huge difference in your astrophotography. So I'm still not ready to obviously do any kind of tutorials on astrophotography or post processing on astrophotography, because that's a whole nother layer of astrophotography that you know really needs a lot more time than the actual process itself of capturing the image. um, if well no, I wouldn't say a lot more, but at least equal time, right? As much time as you spend capturing the image, you need to spend as much time learning and doing processing on the images. So it was it was really something. It just overwhelmed me because I tried a little bit on my own, right? I got a star tracker. I watched a few YouTube videos and I tried a few shots. And I'm not starting from like nowhere, right? I'm a fairly competent photographer to begin with. Uh, at least technically. I'm not saying I take great images. I'm just saying I know how to take a picture and use all of the controls on the camera. And even then, my images were just so bad. Uh, Before I went to meet with Ben, they still aren't great. They can be better, but that's the thing, right? It's the journey is the end, uh, is the destination, as they say, and that's I'm really enjoying it, the astrophotography, and getting into all of this. Um, so it's because it's so challenging and it's very educational, learning about gear and uh, the understanding your gear even more. Things that you don't. I never thought about with lenses or processing the processor. This the image sensor, how it works. You really start to really understand a lot of things because you don't think about a lot of these things in normal photography. For example, you don't think about your Bayer array or your IR cut filters. When you look at specialized cameras that, like the Nikon D810 came out with an astrophotography version, what did they do different in that camera? Because it still takes fairly normal pictures. They're slightly off, but they're fairly normal. And how much difference does it make? Why can't you just use a regular D810? Because when you look at the images, you're like, why would I spend so much more for this other camera? But there's reasons. Um, and Fujifilm, I think the X-T1 had an Astro version. Uh, and then you learn a lot about sort of our society too, right? Here on Earth, just the differences of changing from, say, tungsten street lamps to LEDs, because when you look at the sky now, at the light pollution, it's very blue in a lot of cases, and that's the LED lighting. Whereas years ago, you know, it used to be very yellow, light pollution coming from our skies, and then you can also see from year to year how much brighter or how much more light pollution there is in the skies from one year to the next. And see, you just it just makes you more aware of your surroundings here on Earth. So there's just it's just an overwhelming thing right now for me to think about all the different things that come into play when you're doing astrophotography. Something like 1 or 2% of all light from the galaxy, is all you need, and you can cut out everything else. So I don't know the exact number, but it's some really small amount that you don't need to capture. So hence they have all these different kinds of filters for specifically for astrophotography, which is just a whole nother area that I can't even talk about. But they basically limit some spectrums of light, some like I said, it does all kinds of things. Uh, so I'm really excited to get into this field and do it in a minimalist way possible. But that's what I said when I bought Micro Four Thirds. I said, this is just kind of a second camera for me to go putz around and take pictures without having to carry big Nikon gear, right? And now it's like I'm full on got, 6 or 7 cameras and I don't know how, twice as many lenses. um, so who knows with astrophotography, I might end up getting a big old telescope and some specialized gear. Because Ben, my God, he had some amazing gear. I mean, just his binoculars were amazing. I'll have to see if I have some footage of it later. And but he just had amazing binoculars. You know, just to look at things in the sky with your own eyes through a pair of binoculars is was just fascinating. And exciting. Um, And I bought a cheap pair of like 10 by 50 binoculars, but even that is enjoyable. You can spend like 30 bucks on a pair of, I wouldn't get 10 by 50s. I think a little wider field of view would be better. Maybe, 8 by 25s or something would be better. But the 10 by 50s I got still made really interesting viewing at night with just your own eyes. And you can do that while your camera is doing the exposures, or you can just go out one night without a camera with a pair of binoculars and just enjoy, the different anomalies in the sky. Um, so anyhow, I've been rambling. How long? My God, I've been rambling for 20 minutes on this. Uh, but yeah, that's what I've been doing the last two. Well, I did it Friday, and then Saturday we did the post processing. So yeah, really, there's a it covered 2 days, but it's 24 hours of just uh, astrophotography, right? From the capturing to the post processing. Okay, so I'm sorry, I haven't even looked at the comments yet, but let me make sure I didn't get like 20 notices that there's no sound. And say hi to everybody that's here. Randy, first one in the chat. Anyway, how you doing? Good to see you. And Ed is here. Awesome. Good to see you again. Steve G, Annette, hi. Chan, System Natura, um, Mr. Blue Sky here in London. Awesome. Yeah, it's a beautiful day here too today. So I'm debating what to, I don't know. I never know what I'm going to do. My week is so random. David Tellett, hello, and thanks again for your support. I really appreciate that. Uh, Plato's here, and Jonas, Arthur. My goodness, hi Arthur, how are you? And Terry Lovejoy, good to see you from Brisbane. And Giuseppe's here from Italy. And Steve Wolf from Salisbury, UK. Um, R. Wouters from the Netherlands, happy Easter. Thomas Isauskas. And let's see. Arthur says getting it right in camera is 100% of the objective of good photography. Editing afterwards is additional creativity. You'll never improve a bad photo. Yes, I agree. I agree. I mean, with all the hype of these cameras, people talking about dynamic range, and there's just no camera that can handle the dynamic range of real life, right? Well, I don't want to get all philosophical again, but long story short, yeah, I agree with you there, Arthur. I think that puts it nice and succinctly. Um, and Terry Lovejoy, yes, thank you. The Olympus OMD Astrophotography, Ben does frequently post there. So if you can look at Ben's Facebook page, but he posts mostly in that particular group. But he also has his own Instagram that he posts to. Let me see if I can share that. Uh, oh, I changed my buttons. Let me see. I think it's this one. So it's Grim. Yeah, here it is, Grim. So Grimstad is Ben's Instagram page. And here's one we did together that night. He did a little light painting for the first time. Like he had this red light where he just shined on the observatory buildings here. And we both got a very similar picture here otherwise with the star trails. And here's a moonshot he did. I mean, just the clarity and the detail and the tones are so good. I've done many moonshots that were awesome. But that I thought were awesome. But then when I look at this one, I'm like, oh my goodness, this is amazing. That's one of his um, telescopes that he uses with this red thing here is actually a camera that uses a micro four thirds sensor, I believe. And if I remember correctly, it's the same sensor that's in the EM1 Mark One, but don't quote me on that. The one that is there is one that looks exactly like that. And wow, look at that. I have no idea what that is. Tulip Nebula. Yeah, I'm gonna go out and see him again to try and get this kind of shot. It's just amazing. So he used uh, a filter for this one. Just amazing stuff. But anyway, definitely check this Instagram page out. He's got lots of amazing things. Oh, this is cool. Look at that. Oh, that's kind of risky. Dropping the lens in the sand there. Oh my God. Cool shot though. But man, I never do that on purpose. Um, so that's Ben's Instagram, and then the Facebook page has a lot of these pictures, or even more pictures that he doesn't even post here. Here's the shot that I tried to get yesterday. Let's see, do I have it? Oh no, this was a photo walk I did before I. Let me see, maybe did I flag it? Oh, dumbass. Oh, here's my whatchamacallit. Um, my live composite photo. And this one has a little bit of editing done to it versus the one I posted on Instagram, which was straight out of camera. Let me see. I think, yeah, here's one. this was sort of my take on it. It's a little bit soft, the image. This is the Orion Nebula, but this is about, I don't know, 50 images stacked together, give or take. How big is this? Is this the big one? No, yeah, this is the big one. Oh, it's just, you can see this. I mean, these are like 2 to 4 megapixel, 2 to 4 gigabyte images. It's just shocking how large the images get. If it'll ever come up. All right, it's just taking too long. But there's kind of a thumbnail view of it. Uh, and I think Ben edited this one for me. But this is from my camera, the M1 Mark III with a 75 millimeter f1.8 lens, and on a tracker with about 40 or 50 images. And I can't believe the color and some of the details we squeezed out of the very, of this, of the camera, because, I can't see this kind of thing from my backyard. It's just so much light pollution. This was a Bortle 5 area. Where I live is closer to a Bortle 8. Um, so it's a huge difference in light pollution, I should say. Okay, let me go back to the chat. I'm sorry. I left off somewhere. Ed's having some problems there. Hopefully you figure that out. Maybe log out and log back in. Maybe that'll work. Log out for a few minutes and then come back in. Maybe that'll work. Mr. Vacation. Oh my goodness. It's another one having problems here. Uh, but anyway, let me scroll up. Hopefully that'll work itself out. If not, I'll do something on my end. I left off somewhere way up here. Marco is here. Hi. That's about where I left off, right after Wouters. Marco's here. Good to see you. And Thomas Zauskas. Um, yeah, Ben is awesome, right, Annette? I agree. And Ben, don't forget, Ben has his own YouTube channel as well, the Narrowband channel. So check that out. And Ed says the IR filters were removed in the Astro versions. Yes. I think there was something else too, though. But that sums it up. There's no IR filter, I think. Okay. And Nargis is asking, let me see, this was at 10:49. Oops, I lost it. But Argus is asking, what do I think about the Nikon Z7 II? Um, I can't speak to that camera directly because I don't own it. I've never used it, and I didn't watch really any reviews on it. I may have skimmed them, and just said, "Oh, nice," But I think it's really, really an amazing camera, right? Based on my friend Walter has a Nikon Z7 version 1, and the images I've seen out of that were just amazing, right? Post processing and everything Walter does aside, because Walter is a professional photographer, just the straight out of camera is pretty amazing. But you have the same caveats as you do with any camera, because I've seen images from that camera with the kit lens. I think it comes with a 24 to 70 f4 or something. I forget whatever that base kit zoom lens is. Weren't all that impressive. compared to my Pen F with a 45 millimeter lens. I was using a prime and he was using a kit lens zoom, but he had double the megapixels and 4 times the size sensor. And when I did that comparison, and I was just looking at just the straight out of camera images, no post processing, not trying to do anything weird, pushing highlights and shadows, just looking at the pictures that it takes. And there wasn't much difference, right, between that and my Pen F. Um, if you need to, I'm sure if he put a nice solid prime on there, as he does. Well, he doesn't. He has very good zooms, I should say. The zooms he has are excellent. He had that day, I think he just used the kit lens, but he does have some pretty high-end zoom lenses. Those images were just shockingly good, and I think the ergonomics are generally very good on the Nikons. I like the top plate LCDs that you get. So really, I don't have anything bad to say about the Nikon Z7. Right? It's a very competent camera. It's just a matter of the form factor. If you want to go with the full frame system where overall everything's going to be bigger and heavier. If that's not an issue for you, then, I wouldn't stop you from buying one. It's and that's a wrong way to put it, but it's an excellent camera. The Z7 and the Z7 II is supposedly even a little better. So, oh, I see. Something is hacked here. Um, wow, that's fascinating. I got to slow this down a bit because it's a little bit, um, it's a little disruptive. The problem is when you block one, they come in like 2 seconds later with another one. Um, Unfortunately. Let me just do a little bit of maintenance here. Uh, so for you guys that have been hacked, maybe just sign out, wait a few minutes, and sign back in. Hopefully that'll get the chat section back in order. I don't know. Okay, so hopefully that cleaned up some of it. Um, Soft Fun, good to see you. Happy Easter. Looks like you came in right when the hackers came in. Yes, I understand, Ed and Mr. Vacation. I know you guys. You guys have been here before and have been very good in the streams. So there seems to be some other issue. All right, let's see. System Atura says there appears to be an issue with the EM1X regarding missing manual focus function on the function button menus. The manual focus is only on the EM5.2 and the EM1.2. Okay, I don't have an EM1X to check for you. I don't know if anyone else here has an EM1X and can provide some feedback on that. That would be great, but that's not something I can talk about. And Chuck says, "Did show your filters that clip on over your sensors? What you do with that? What would you do?" Yes. So what Chuck is talking about? I think yeah. There's no way I can get back and show that particular chat. But there are filters that clip directly over the sensor, and then you put your lens onto the camera. And those filters, Ben uses them all the time. He used it the night we went out the other night, and he doesn't really have any issue with them. So I I think I would be comfortable with it as well. Just be careful, right? Obviously. Um, I mean, if you're a heavy coffee drinker and shaky hands, maybe not go that route. But I think generally speaking, um, doesn't seem to be any problems. There's a company called STC that makes those, and then there's some 3D printer guys that have made stuff too that you can make them a little bit cheaper yourself if you do it that way. But yeah, it's a couple $100, 200-300 for those kinds of filters. But I think that's true for any of the Astro filters really that are any good. All right, let me see if I can find. Uh, I wish it was April 1st for real because Olympus announced the Pen F Mark II. Yeah, I know. Hi Lars, how are you? I would love a Pen F2 myself. Good morning, John. Good to see you. John Yutze is here. And Randy's here. Yes, I see what's happening. Uh, yeah, it looks like there's somebody came in again, just clogging up my chat with nonsense. Um, Jeff Painter says we used to get gel filters on the back of movie lenses. M7 MDX. I'm just gonna put you on hold for a little bit, just because your chats are coming in a little bit too fast for me. Okay. Let's see. Pizza 47. Hello. So anyhow, let's hope this passes. I mean, it's a shame because I really enjoy the community side of the chat sections where I can kind of interact with you guys, put your messages up, your questions, your comments, and that to me is what I really enjoy about the stream because a lot of streams, the especially when there's people more than one person, a lot of streams they just jibber jabber for an hour or so and never talk to the audience or interact with them, right? They might have a third party like pulling specific questions, moderating, right? But for the most part, they're not interactive, which is fine. If you're in for like a broadcast type situation, uh, it's perfectly fine. And then some users, their streams are so big, right? They got thousands of people watching, they can't possibly interact with everyone. So I get that. But right now, the channel is at a point. At least my channel is at a point where I can still interact and get to know a lot of you, you know, individually, right? Okay. Randy says I have the MF option to assign a button on the M1X. Hmm. Thanks, Randy. You're responding to System Natura there. Okay. Let me scroll down. It looks like things have slowed down a bit. Hopefully, I didn't lose everybody in that process. Um, Let me check something real quick on my end.
Okay, so biggest problem that I'm seeing is that people are making content online that actually.
Okay, good. I'll switch camera angles. Ooh, it's a little bit too. Hold on. Let me put this over here. This is my my high tech view, right? The command center. My desk is a mess, though. Jeez, it doesn't look messy like when I'm on my normal view, right? Like when I'm like this, everything looks peachy keen, right? But I flip over to this one, and everything. And that's the thing, when I do my real estate photography, it's so much work to declutter. Sometimes these offices that I do, I spend, I remember I spent about an hour and a half decluttering this office space before I could start to take pictures. Of course, you build that into the price a little bit, but it's man, it's like this. This looks like my desk sometimes. I have to take like these little pen holders and move them and all these wires and take the picture, then put everything back, the way it was. Oh, anyhow, let's see. The other thing I had out there, and I talked a little bit about this on Thursday, was I wanted to start a tutorial on black and white photography. And there's a recent comment about, the people that did comment on that question, whether it was in my Instagram or uh, in the community tab, they all wanted me to do one. So I'm definitely going to work on that. But there was one person that just recently posted says, no, not really. They're not interested because they feel like uh, post processing on black and white should be minimal, right? And that's something that I think Robin Wong is also a big advocate of is just minimal processing. Don't get too carried away. And that's me. I will be doing black and white processing, but on a very minimalist level, right? Just first I wanted to show how to do as much as you can with a JPEG in camera. Highlight shadow settings. If you have a Pen F, you can do additional color settings and filters, and then applying art filters to a black and white image. So I'm going to do some very basic and then some slightly more advanced type things where you are um, maybe using a high pass filter to increase sharpness or to make the picture really gritty, or maybe you want to do a little light painting and how to selectively choose different areas for light painting. And that gets more into like that famously like Ansel Adams used to do, where he would work extensively in the dark room, as many of photographers back in the day did, where they would light paint with these little brushes, right? Not brushes, but I've seen them. They're just little things that they put in and wiggle around over the paper while it's developing, right? With the what do they call that thing? The overhead projector thing. I can't remember. The enlarger. Uh, they did a lot of stuff, and but now we can do it digitally with Lightroom, right, and Photoshop. So that's kind of thing. So it might end up being a two-part series where I do sort of the basic editing to kind of get that look that I think will work for most people, and then maybe in the second part go into a little bit more advanced techniques and approaches that I take when I do my black and white photography. Um, so that's what I'm thinking. So for those of you that are more of the minimalist type post processing black and white photographers, you just get it right in camera as much as you can, maybe a couple of tweaks and you're done. I'm going to try and appeal to you as well, but then I want to go into more advanced techniques of post processing. And this is not going to be too much about actually capturing the image, all of the, because there's a lot of videos, all kinds of videos on uh, doing black and white photography, but they're taking it from the perspective of what to shoot, right? Like if you want to do minimalist type photography with lots of what do they call it, negative space, or if you want to go into more chaotic type images. Oh, poor Ed has been hacked. That's a shame. Uh, Let me go back and see where we're at on the comments before I get lost again in the trolls, the hacker stuff. Neil, hello, good to see you. And Michael White, awesome. Some feedback there for AFS single point to switch. So yeah, there's some good feedback here in for System Natura. I assume you're keeping up with that. And David Tellis says thumbs up on black and white. Maybe include a comparison with black and white art filters. Yep, there's only a couple in the Olympus camera, but I'll give some thought on how to do that. And Terry Lovejoy is calling it a night. Okay, we'll see you later. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday, Easter Sunday. And Arthur says, oh, let me switch back. Have a little visual interest here, right? Black and white post processing with film, chemicals, and papers advanced, paper types, different chemicals, etc. Not even mention dodge and burn and more. Yes, yeah, definitely. There's you can use different chemicals on the same film and get different results. You can change the timing of the development time, or there's a couple of steps involved in developing, and you change the timing of those from say 6 minutes to 7 minutes, and it becomes grittier or less grittier, contrasty, less contrasty. And then, of course, film itself, depending what film you used, you're going to get different results, right? Because some film had different sensitivity to color, right? So if you use this film, the reds would be, if you use this film, the reds would be much stronger or darker in the negative, and then if you used a different film, the reds would be very faint, very light. So different film stocks had different sensitivity to color. Sometimes some colors came out very strong, like more dark tones, and then on other films they'd be lighter. So you had so many variables with film photography, and this can be emulated to some extent in digital photography. Um, and people have created presets to emulate specific film stocks, right? But I'm not going to get that deep into it, because if you're interested in doing specific film stocks, you have to buy the presets, from a credible source that knows what they're doing. And then even then, I don't know if it really converts quite as well or would compare quite as well or the same to actual film. Now, if you watch my video where I took my Pen F and compared it against the OM2S that I took out, in that camera, in the OM2S is a film camera that I used Kodak black and white film. It had expired like years and years ago. I forget how many years. It was either 7 years or 12 years. It was expired black and white film, but the images were pretty similar. And what I learned from Robin Wong was that the Pen F monochrome profile with grain was designed to emulate Kodak black and white film. And that's why the images were so similar. Now I'm going to be curious to see, because I still have about 5 rolls I need to develop, um, how, and it wasn't Kodak, it was like HP5, HP4. I had different types of black and white. I'm curious to see how they come out and maybe compare those to my digital. I have to do that. I still have one more roll, I think, of HP5. I'll have to take that one out side by side with the Pen F and see how they compare. And that'll be, I think, the most obvious. Well, let me rephrase that. I think there I expect to see much different outcomes from the same scene, right? But we'll see. And it'll be fun to try other types of film stocks if they're even still available in black and white. Because I really enjoy film photography as well. Okay, let's see where we're at. And this is between Randy and Terry. Oh, wow. Terry's messages are coming in a lot too. And let's see. Jeff says, as a teenager, I was the school photographer. I used to develop black and white film plus X and Tri-X and D76 developer. Yep, that rings a bell. And print images too. They were used in the quarterly school magazine. Yeah, so you know what it's like, right? Having a little red light on, the little trays of chemicals, using the enlarger. I did a little bit of that, not in school, but on my own. I actually in high school I did buy all that stuff for myself and tried it. And I actually, where are they? I have some prints from when I was in college. So it wasn't high school, it was in college. I'm sorry. When I was in college, I bought a lot of those things. And I'm gonna put Terry on pause. Just, I'm sorry, Terry. You're somehow your chat is coming in a lot, so I'm just gonna put you on pause, okay? But should be able to get back on in 5 minutes. Um, let me look in this closet real quick, or maybe right here. Let me see. Wow, I thought I had it right here. I'll have to save it for another stream or video. But I found a bunch of my old prints that I made when I was in college. That I developed the film like in a little, stainless steel canisters, and then put the paper in the trays with an enlarger. I have all that stuff. And um, these are, yeah, these are more. Yeah, these are my negatives. These are more recent. These are not the ones from college. But this is the black and white. Some of these are Portra 160. I don't know what happened to it. That's shocking. I thought it was right here. Man, I hate it. Oh, I hate it when I can't find something. Huh. I don't know where it is. maybe I don't understand. I thought I thought they were right here. Maybe they're down. Maybe they're downstairs. I'm not sure. Um, and let me go down. It says here. Thomas says I occasionally photo walk. I occasionally photo walk with monochrome mode enabled. Yes. Most of the raw shots I still end up editing in full color, but the process really forces me to concentrate in tonality. Well, that's an interesting approach. Like you shoot seeing looking at black and white on EVF and live view with the intent to process in color. That's kind of the opposite of what most people say. They say sometimes they take pictures in color with the intent to process in black and white, but that's kind of the reverse. That's interesting. Uh, I think I remember a long time ago I saw something by Matt Granger saying, look at the black and white in the EVF to get the tones right for your color portraits. That was a long time ago I watched that video. I'll have to watch it again and try and understand what he was trying to teach there because it didn't make any sense to me back years ago when I saw it. I was still I was a newbie myself when I saw that video. Um, Mr. Vacation says everybody said my Canon M50 is a toy. Yeah, I get the same thing with my Olympus gear. Walter in particular, he's always like, you're gonna bring your toy cameras out today? I says, yeah, because he knows I have some full frame cameras, but I always take my Micro Four Thirds out. It's all friendly banter. Um, because we both know better that it's not about the gear, right? Once you're sort of an experienced photographer, you know better than to criticize or put down gear because of its gear, right? It has nothing to do with uh, the photograph and your photography. What's really, I heard a good one, must have been on that other channel. But you know how you hear, it's the person behind the camera that matters or makes the image. And someone took that one step further and they said it's what's behind and in front of the camera that makes a difference. And it's like it's so obvious, but I've never said that to myself out loud or ever thought of that, right? But it is. It's true. It's what's behind and in front of the camera. It's not the camera itself, right? Um, and there's a question here. Let me see. That was at 11:26. Chuck shot 4x5 graphic. Wow. Yeah, I'd like to get a 4x5 one day. I'll do that one day. Once I kind of uh get past the roles I currently have, I need to finish. And John Yutze says, don't know if you plan to scan your black and white film, but black and white film doesn't scan well, in my humble opinion, unless you use a chromatic black and white film like Ilford. Wow, okay. I have scanned my black and whites. I thought they came out okay. Um, I watched Nick Carver. He has a few videos on scanning, and he's using an Epson V something, like a higher end version of my scanner. I have an Epson V550, I think. Yeah, I have a V550, and I thought the results were good because they came out pretty good as I can get. But I'd be curious, short of sending it in for, a wet drum type scanning. I don't know how else to do it. Uh, Unless you use a chromogenic black and white film. Interesting. So I have no doubt that if you develop the film, take the negative, and print it onto black and white paper, photo paper, right? Like using chemicals, like the whole process, do the whole chemical organic process with black and white film prints. I bet that would look different than scanning it, the negative in digitally, than doing a little processing and printing that. That would be an interesting. I'm sure someone's done it on YouTube, but that would be kind of interesting to see a comparison between a full organic process uh, from negative to print versus a digital process from negative to print. That that would be interesting. Like I said, I'm sure someone's done it. It's not something I don't think I can do. I don't plan on ever, at least not in the near future, um, doing something like that. I bet David Tellett can do it though, because he has digital and film. I know David develops his own film. I don't know if he does his own prints though. And Randy shoots his film negatives on a DF with a macro lens. Works awesome. Yeah, I've seen people do it that way. It's a lot faster than doing it with a scanner. I know that. I mean, each image. I don't know if doing entire rolls of film will be faster, but I know an individual image is very quick if you do it that way. And Neo's saying the same thing. Instead of scanning negatives, you should shoot them with high res mode on Olympus with macro. Like I said, I think Nick Carver. I don't think I know he does. Nick Carver has a video where he compared doing it that way, taking pictures of the negatives versus scanning the negatives versus some other price. He compared like three different processes of scanning negatives. I'll have to watch that again. Uh, but at this point, I don't have a macro lens, and to do that, so I'd have to. I could probably do it with the gear that I have. I would just need to use my. I just have to calibrate my light table, white balance to match the camera. Yeah, I could probably get around it. I don't know. I'll give that some thought. For now, I'm just gonna use my scanner. And let's see. Good morning, Jim Jones. Hello, happy Easter. And HKM from Austria. Good to see you again. And Randy says, I just read. This is 11:32. I just read in the manual that the FN function lever in mode 2 with MF and preset MF cannot be signed to a button. Okay, thanks for sharing that. That seems to be a long discussion here in the thread today, huh? Dealing with that button. And David Tellett says, where did that go? I see. Lars says, I'm using MZICO ED30 3.5 macro and a Nikon ES2 to scan film. It's fast and results are very good. Oh yeah, I've seen that. The little attachment you put on the front of your macro lens, and then you just slide the negatives through. That is fast. That might be worth getting because it's not. It's like $60 for that attachment, right? It's not expensive, and you just have to have a good light source, right? That's a good clean light source, like a video LED that has good light, or tungsten lighting and then white balance it. Something that has a very good clean light source, not like fluorescent lighting or cheap LED lighting. You have to have good lighting. But yeah, I've seen that. I think Randy got one of those. And Neo says, I'm in love with Kodak Portra 400. Yeah, I love Portra. I've been shooting Portra 160, but I think I'll go to Portra 400 because 160 is just too slow. uh, and I like to keep my shutter speeds up, because film cameras don't have any IBIS. And Randy says I don't scan all my negatives because a lot of them suck. I get that. Um, yeah, if you're doing them one at a time, you can kind of pick and choose. But when I do it on my flatbed, I have to scan them all at once. But ironically, it doesn't really take any longer to do 8 or 10 at a time. I think I do 12 at it. I don't know, however many at it, like 10 at a time, than it does just one sometimes. Robin, happy Easter. And I think I got everything. Leon says, I need a woman in the house to sort out. You're funny. Chuck says, I'm in awe of you guys. Yeah, Jeff Painter, Arthur, Randy, a lot of you guys are really awesome. Um, I mean, it's really a privilege for me to have viewers like yourself on my channel. And I learn as much from you guys as you guys might learn from me, if not more. I learn a lot more from you guys looking at your Instagrams or just here in the chat section, the sort of wisdom and knowledge that you can share from your experience, either like I said, in the chat section or through emails that you send me. It's that's why I love this community here, right? I mean, it. In the end, that's all that matters in life. Really, is the people that you share it with, right? And we're all pretty much like-minded in photography. So, what better way to spend your lives or days of your lives than with each other? So, thanks for being here with me today. Um, and what's this? On my X's, I use the FN lever to be on-off option, much faster for my camera to bring to my eye. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's certainly one workflow. And Robin says scanning is a great way to keep shooting with great old film cameras and a way to preserve the images and share them, plus add effects in post-production that you do in a darkroom. Yes. Yeah, that's where I'm at, right? I'm just scanning and then maybe doing a little post-processing, if any. I don't think really I've post-processed any of my film images. I mean, honestly, when the scanners, at least the way I have the default settings, when it's scanning in the images, it's adjusting the exposure automatically. Um, because I found if I scan them directly with no processing, they're way too dark. Uh, so, I'm not super experienced with scanning and all of the variables that go into it. So I just click auto expose so that the final scan is clean, or viewable. Because I've gotten really weird results when I don't turn on the auto exposure. So does that mean I'm underexposing my images, or am I don't know what I'm missing. Like I said, I haven't given it that much thought because I don't do it often enough. Maybe David, I can talk to David about that next time I see you in the field. Um, you have an old Nikon cool scan. Yeah, those old Nikon ones. There's one in particular that still commands top dollar that they don't make anymore. I don't know if that's the same one or not, but my buddy Walter has one, and it takes great scans. Now, what I like about the scanner that I have, the Epson V550, the V series, is for color negatives. It does a really good job at removing dust. I mean, I do my best to kind of blow the negatives and whatever, uh, but still always some specks of dust on the negatives, no matter how hard I try and get a clean thing. And for the color film, it does an excellent job. It doesn't work on black and white, but they have some kind of infrared dust remover or something built in, which is really cool. It slows everything down, but it's worth it. Saves you a lot of time in post knocking dust spots out. Uh, and what's Randy saying? On my EM1 Mark II, I use the shutter button to stop the video much easier. Yes, I do that sometimes. When, on my EM1 Mark III or 2 or 3, I do use the shutter button as your stop record button when I do video most of the time. And like grains of silver, so are the days of our lives. Yeah. And JV, before I get to that, let me just check. Oh, all right, Lars, we'll see you later. Enjoy your dinner. I'm going to have lunch after this. Robin says, I look like Jim West from the Wild Wild West TV show. Yeah, this is kind of this paisley red. That is cool. What if I go black and white, right? How would this look, I wonder? And put a red filter, this would be bright. Maybe put a green filter, but then my face would be dark. I don't know. Just do a straight chromatic difference. Let me try. Ooh, that looks dark. But here I am. I think this is straight monochrome. I think. Uh, all right. I won't leave it like this too long, but I will do. Oh, I have a Kodak Portra 400 in my EM10 right now. I think you mean OM10. The OM10 is a film Olympus camera, but sorry, JV, I'll come back to you. I think you mean the OM10. And my God, John Allen has some old Leica negatives from 1934 you still need to scan. That's insane. Hopefully you have the prints though, at least. And okay, so let me get back to JV here. And Arthur says, I'm humbled. Love your YouTube channel and Instagram. Those are wonderful folk here you have. Yes, it's true. This is a great community. There's so many awesome people here. Including yourself, Arthur. It's okay. I think I'm back to JV here. I'm sorry. 11:44. Okay, I'm only 3 minutes behind. That's good. What Lumix do you have or recommend? I have hold on. Chartex says G9. Let me, I lost my place here from JV. Well, JV, I have the Lumix S5. I have two, actually. I have this GX85, and I have the S5, right? Try not to drop it. I can recommend both of these. Really, all of the Lumix cameras are really good, just like Olympus. So the camera I would recommend would be dependent upon your use case, right? If you want something small, light, affordable, but packed with features, the GX85 you can get with two kit lenses for like 500 bucks, brand new. And that's a great, that's what this is. This is sort of a rangefinder style where the EVF is on the left side, so you can hold it up to your eye this way. Very compact, lightweight, great travel camera, and great menu, touchscreen, and the screen tilts vertically like this, just in one direction or down, right, 45 degrees. It doesn't flip out, and there's no microphone jack. So if you're interested in vlogging, this is not the right camera. But if you just want a small travel, lightweight camera system, GX85 is excellent. And then if you want more of a DSLR type experience, the G9 is excellent. Uh, it's closer to the size of my. Where did I set it down? Golly, you know this. The G9 is closer to the size of the S5. They're pretty much the same size, but the lenses will be a lot smaller because you can see this ginormic lens on this S5. But the G9 is like less than $1,000 right now, brand new, and that's an excellent camera. Uh, by all accounts, and it'd be really good for vlogging. It's a little bit large for vlogging, but it's an excellent vlogging camera and photo stills camera because it was originally designed to be a photo stills camera, and that's by all accounts that has great ergonomics. I love the top plate LCD on that G9. That's a camera still on my short list. For me, but I bought this S5, so I think I'm gonna go L mount with my full frame stuff going forward if I ever go any further with it. But those are the three cameras: GX85, G9, or S5. You know, and there's a GH5 out there right now that's very video centric. So if you want to get into cinematography and you want to be like a filmmaker, GH5, right? No question, hands down. Uh, and those are going for like $1,200, $1,300. So that's kind of the range. GX85, G9 for photos and video to some extent, and then GH5 for hardcore filmmaking, cinematography, and then the S5 if you want to go sort of full frame. Those are the three cameras I'd recommend, or four cameras. Okay. Yeah, this is what I was talking. Digital ice. Thank you, Robin. That's what I'm talking about. That does an excellent job on color. It doesn't work on black and white, but it works great on color. Um, yeah, yes, the OM10. Yes, easy to mistake, right? And Randy says, "So happy you recommend the EM10. It's my favorite hiking camera." I know, right? Isn't it awesome? The EM10 Mark II is still. Uh, I would recommend if you're a stills photographer, the EM10 Mark II will take you everywhere, and you can take it everywhere. And when I say you can take it everywhere, because it's small, compact, lightweight, right? It's rugged, well built. And when I say it'll take you everywhere, I mean that this camera has every feature in it that you could possibly really need to expand your photography. So you can go anywhere you want in photography with that camera because it has really the core set of many high-end professional cameras uh, built into it. So yeah, it's an amazing camera. Um, so yeah, EM10 Mark II, man, all the way. I will for stills photography. I will take an EM10 Mark II over just about any Lumix camera um, because I value size and weight and compactness. I would take an EM10 Mark II over a GX85, for example. Um, So the EM10 Mark II in its class is probably the best camera available, right? Especially now you can buy them for like 200 bucks. And oh wow. Solagore 300 f5.6. Wow. I have not heard that brand in a long time. Solagore. I don't remember them having too many good lenses, or maybe they were some of the best. I can't remember. It's been so long since I've heard that brand name. Uh, Robin says also have a ton 35 millimeter film strip scanners from putting old new negative self-contained unit. Oh yeah, I've seen those. Um, are they any good though? I mean, I guess for just quick stuff, I would be fine with, but for more critical scanning, I think the flatbed, the V series from Epson my impression is going to do a better job, but I don't know that's for a fact. It's just my perception of having a flatbed V series scanner will do a better job than those little all-in-ones, right? But I don't know. It's just my perception. Uh, yeah. Let me turn this back to color. We were talking about black and white so much. I just thought I'd switch over. I can do a different filter. Let's see. Uh, what was I using? That's natural. This is fine. Okay, I'm back to. Ow. My neck is still a little bit stiff, so I'm acting a little bit, or getting up and down a little bit awkwardly because of that. And I'm back. I'm back to color. Let's go back to my techno screen. I'm reading the comments over here. Uh, and Robin says ion. Sorry, I thought with my dying eyes that looked like ton, but you meant ion scanner. Ion can scan black and white color slides, negatives, or positive conversion. And Errol uses trying to thin out stock. I'm not sure what you're referring to. And Robin says my go-to camera is the M10 Mark II. And speaking of L mount, Casey at Camera Conspiracy actually showed some backhanded love for M43 in his latest video. Said it would be ludicrous for Olympus to join the L mount alliance. Interesting. And Randy says, "Yep, I paid 200 in reference to your EM10 Mark II, right?" And Arthur says, "I absolutely agree. EM10 Mark II. Here it is." And oh, there's a question here that popped in. Why isn't it showing? It's not showing on this screen, this question. When I use fill-in flash on Ollie, it uses a lot of the flashlight. Okay. When I use fill flash on Nikon or Canon, it seems like they use more of the natural light and uses the flash more discreet. Is that so? I need to give that some thought because I don't know for a fact. So I'm going to try and think out rationally why that might be the case. It definitely has to do with the metering, right? So if if you're talking Nikon or Canon, if you're talking about the DSLRs or the mirrorless, it would definitely have to do with the metering. So, and the programming for the metering. So I don't know for a fact if that's the case, but if it is, let's say it's true, right? Then what's happening is the Olympus is using a higher shutter speed than or a higher aperture, right? Than the Nikon when it's trying to calculate exposure. By raising the I'm sorry, the the Olympus would be choosing a higher aperture or lower ISO than the Nikon when it's calculating the exposure for flash. Because when you lower the ISO or you increase the aperture, say from f4 to f8, you're going to get less ambient light and it's going to require more flash, right? Flash power, thereby giving you more fill-in flash or light from the flash. And the Nikon is probably choosing uh, lower aperture numbers, right? Like f4, f2.8, f1.8, whatever, is choosing lower aperture numbers, and then thereby needing less fill flash and capturing more ambient light. So it's a matter of how each manufacturer programs the exposure when it's using flash. And shutter speed will be irrelevant. Okay. So the only way to know what's happening is to compare them side by side. Just put the camera on, program mode, put fill in flash, turn it on, and take a picture in various lighting conditions. And then do a side by side comparison and see how each camera is calculating exposure when it's using flash. So that would be my guess if that were the case. But I don't know for a fact because it would also be dependent on the how much output or flash power the flash is capable of and how much ambient light there is. So there's a lot of variables there. But if you were to do everything the same, um, use an equivalent powered flash on the Olympus with an equivalent powered flash on the Nikon, set it up in manual mode, I'm sorry, in program mode, and then let the camera calculate the exposure and then see what happens. Because as soon as you go into manual mode with flash, you should get the same amount of fill in and ambient light mix. Because that's what I do a lot of in my professional work. Um, and by professional, I mean my paid work. So I should say paid work, right? But in my paid work, uh, I control manual exposure and I control how much ambient light I use and how much fill flash I need for my paid work. I'm very conscientious of that in particular. So I hope that gets you on the right path to figuring that question out or finding an answer to that question because I can't answer it directly, unfortunately. Uh, and I posted that I was trying to give someone if they wanted a free Lumix 25 f1.7 lens in the US, I will ship it if they want it. Email me. Oh, that's nice, Errol. Uh, so just email Errol if you have his email address. I don't know if you want to share it here in the chat section or not, but he's got it, and it's a great lens. I use it all the time. Not all the time, but when I do use my Lumix GX85, I do use that lens a lot. Um, I used to use it on my Olympuses until I bought an Olympus version. For various reasons, I bought the Olympus 25. Not because of image quality. I didn't switch to the Olympus version for that. I switched for the video reasons because it just focuses better in video than the Lumix version on my Olympus cameras. That's why. Uh, that's an interesting question. Eric Galp G-Bond. Use the M52 Professional. His videos are in French, Spanish, and English. No, I have no idea. So if anybody knows, put his channel name up, and I'll try and find it and give you a link based on the channel name. And Thomas Anthony, hello. How are you? I'm doing well, thanks. Let me switch back over. I'm doing great. Thank you for asking. I hope you're doing well too. And two beautiful Sunday morning. Oh, it jumped on me again. Too beautiful Sunday not to go out on a photo walk. The dog wants to see Easter bunnies. All right, Thomas, we'll see you later. I agree, it is nice out. And Leon wants to know, are you shipping overseas as well? I don't know. For Errol. You know, Leon, if you put uh oh, thank you, Thomas. I clicked the wrong thing here. I meant to click Leon's. Put at Errol U so he can see it a little easier to highlight his name in his own chat window. If he doesn't answer, he may have answered already, and this point is mute. But Marco says here, I could use it. I can trade. Oh, again, yeah, Marco wants it too. Okay. And Robin says most flash unit have it so you can dial in the amount of flash plus OM. I think compute the amount during exposure, like you said. A lot of variables depending on flash and camera brand. Yep. And Leon, yeah, be sure to put at Errol U so he definitely sees your chat messages. And Errol's email there if you guys are interested in the 25 millimeter f1.7. Uh, oops. And then playing with the pinhole photos, drilled a hole in the body cap and kind of works. The hole needs to be really small, still working, but fun. Yeah, I've thought about trying that, right? You kind of drill a hole and then you put some silver metallic tape over the hole, and then you use a needle to poke a hole in that pin or poke a hole in the tape. And then you can kind of adjust the size of that hole so that you get the best focus and all of that. I thought about trying that. Um, but then they sell uh, pinhole lenses for like 70 bucks. Seems kind of ridiculous, right? For a plastic lens that has a hole in it. Uh, but making one yourself doesn't sound hard at all, right? I've seen some people use a strip of aluminum foil from a can. I just bought some sparkling water in a can. Maybe I'll do it that way. And but I think um, I might have. I don't know. I don't have. I used to have some metallic tape. Like used for duct tape. It's not duct tape, but it's HVAC tape, right? I think that would work as well. Whatever. It's all DIY. And Robin is heading out. Awesome. Easter ham. Oh yeah. Oh, pinhole body cap is about $25. Okay. And David Crooks walked in here from out of nowhere. Here's the channel. Oh, thank you, David. How you doing? I didn't know you snuck in here. Um, oh, I gotta check this out. Um, whoops. Dang it. I lost my chat window doing this. Is this going to work or not? Nope. Let me close this. I'm sorry. If I don't have my chat window in big print in front of me, I can't read the chat. Okay, so that's that. And then David shared this link. Doesn't work, David. Why? Let me take. Here he is. Sorry. Let me put a link again, just in case the link that David posted doesn't work. I'm going to put another link. This is again Eric G. Baud. That's the link I came up with. I don't know why. I don't know why the one you provided didn't work quite. It went to a specific video instead of to the main channel. No videos. It's weird. Oh, let me show you guys what I'm looking at. So if I go to his homepage, it says now I glitch in YouTube. All right, but there we go. Interesting. I'll check him out later. Okay, let's go back to the main chat window. And Chuck says, I used AL foil to make pinholes. Oh, aluminum foil. Pinholes, yes. I've seen people do that. And Errol says, I have some open grips for the M10 Mark II if anyone's interested. Cool. So you have more. It's very generous of you, Errol. Thank you. And Thomas Anthony says, I want to do a black and white tutorial. Okay. Do you have a channel? If you mean you want me to do it, I'm working on it. If you want to do one, if you have a YouTube channel, I'll be happy to share it. And let's see. Oh, Robin took off. Yeah, Easterham, so I'm caught up here. Of course, Plato just says, just type Eric G. Baud. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. Okay. If there's anybody new here and has any questions, this is a good time to ask because I think I'm caught up. Or if I missed a question, I'll be happy to answer it if you just type it in again. So I'll wait a minute for that to come in because there's some delay sometimes between when you type and when there's a question. But I think after that I'll just end it. But yeah, so I'm definitely going to work on a black and white photography video, maybe in 2 parts. And then also, I still have my bracketing video I want to do and my depth of field or aperture video, full frame versus micro four thirds. So I have 3 videos. Hopefully, I can get done this week. It's going to be raining half the week, so I don't know. Some of them I can do indoors. Some of them I have to do outdoors to kind of get the full effect. Particularly the bracketing, right? I have to do outdoors. Randy's asking, what's my all-time favorite lens? 17 millimeter f1.8. You know, that's my desert island lens. If if I had to choose one lens, that would be it. And thinking over the history that I've been shooting the last 8 or 9 years, I would say the 35 millimeter Zeiss Distagon f2. That lens, this lens here. I did not use this lens enough, but the images or photos that I took with this lens was pretty amazing. I wonder if I can get a close up. This lens. I would say this is my all-time favorite lens. It's manual focus, Nikon mount, but I have the Micro Four Thirds mount on here. That's why it looks a little bigger. If I take this off, uh, it's not that big really, but it is heavy. And this thing is, let's see how much this weighs. Yeah, this is 534 grams for an f2. Um, Man, I would take this out. I think I could use this on the EM1s all right, but on EM10 this was just way too bulky. But it's not that much different than my 75. Maybe that's what I'll do today. I'll shoot with this 35 millimeter. It's no, yeah, it's battery. I have to add focus peaking. Oops. Yeah. This lens is so sharp, and the contrast I get out of this lens is really amazing. So yeah. So Micro Four Thirds mount to 17, and for full frame, this 35. God, this thing is heavy. You know, the camera body is like 500 and some grams, right? And the lens is another 500. So this is a little over a kilo, I bet. Let me see. Oh, 1,274 grams. So almost 1.3 kilos like this. This is yeah, this is my favorite. This would be an awesome. It's just so it's like carrying full frame again because I got a full frame lens on here. I think that's why I don't take this out at all. I can't think of too many images I've taken with this lens and on a Micro Four Thirds. But man, the focus is buttery smooth, and this is probably the second most expensive lens I own. Probably the most expensive lens, which is it was like $1,000. Anyway, I don't think I paid that though. Come to think of it, I think I paid 700 for it. So it's not the most expensive lens I own, but yeah, it's up there. Uh, that's the weight of my full frame Canon. Yeah, it's heavy, man. That's a heavy lens. And I have a Carl Zeiss. Whoops, the thing jumped here. Stephen Long says I have a Carl Zeiss Jenna Flexcon 35 2.4. Produces great colors. Yeah, yeah, the Jenna series, man. There's a few out there that I've thought about getting. Um, but I got so many. There's so many things in photography that I'm interested in. I hate to buy something and then not get to it for years, you know. But I'm definitely envious of those lenses. Um, oh, Rick is here. Hey, Rick. Happy Easter. I'm glad you could make it in. Oh, so I assume you mean when I said I got the 17-1.8? Yeah, that's a great lens. And let's see. Uh, Here's one from Pizza 47. Says, in which format save raw files in Olympus to get the best quality for further processing? JPEG or TIFF? Oh, TIFF. So if you're talking about you take the picture in RAW and then you do some editing and then you want to export that raw image, TIFF would be the better format by far. Because TIFF is essentially a raw format. And from what I've read is that TIFF is actually the baseline format for every raw image in every camera. But then the manufacturers uh, add their own, you know, algorithms and information to the raw format, to the TIFF format to create their own raw format. So the problem I've had with TIFF when I export from, say, Olympus Workspace is it exports it, I believe, as an 8-bit TIFF. It may export as 16-bit, but I do lose some image quality. It's still more flexible than the original raw image. I'm sorry, then it's still more flexible than exporting compared to the JPEG, but it's not as good as like when I'm exporting, say, from Lightroom. If I export Olympus RAW as a TIFF image using Lightroom or Photoshop, I don't lose any quality. So it really depends on what software you're using to export the TIFF image. And I don't have quite the the systematic workflow to explain that and do it right every single time. But it's something I'm looking into. Um, but yeah, short answer is TIFF. TIFF is the better format by far over JPEG because it's essentially a raw format, and you shouldn't lose any information. But it depends on how the software exports that TIFF file because there's people that export it as 16-bit or 32-bit even, and there's just different ways to do it. So uh, look into you'll have to do a couple of exports using using the options in your software and see which one gives you the most flexibility in processing that TIFF. So I hope that answers the question. And I'm hoping OMDS make a 50 to 400 F4 IS Pro. Is that a rumor out there? They're making a 50 to 200? That doesn't ring a bell. Uh, I mean, they have a 40 to 150, and they have. I mean, currently they have 40 to 150, but you want a 50 to 200 f4. That would be an interesting lens. That would be kind of interesting. Um, it's on the lens map. Okay, it's on the list. Okay, yeah, that would be interesting. I'm waiting for the 8 to 25 myself. Of course, I'm debating if I would buy it now. I've been waiting so long. I've kind of debating if it makes any sense. Maybe I'll just get the 918. It's going to depend on the price. If it's like around 600 bucks, I'll get it. If it's a lot more than that, like 1,000 or 1,200, I probably won't get it. Um, I'll have to see when it comes out. But a 50 to 200, if that's on the lens map, That would be an interesting alternative to the 40 to 150 f28, right? Because right now the 40 to 150 f28 is like 12, $1,300. And if they can crank out a 50 to 200 f4 for about 800, that would be pretty exciting, I think. If they can do it for less than the 40 to 150, that would definitely be a solid option. Am I yawning? I can't help it. And it's contagious, right? Probably the rest of you are yawning now too, right? Um, System Natura. This is funny. Um, so Randy's saying he wants a little more reach than the 40 to 150. And then System Natura says just get a 1.4 teleconverter and you're pretty much there, right? 50 to 200 at f4. Uh, yeah, sometimes we're just overthinking it. The 1.4 would do the same thing effectively. So, but it's just a matter of, I think for Randy, a 1.4 teleconverter makes more sense than buying another lens, right? The 50 to 200, unless you just want a smaller, lighter lens. Because yeah, it'll definitely be smaller and lighter than a 40 to 150 with a teleconverter. If you can get a 50 to 200 with an f4, and they can keep the price down around 600, 800, maybe 900. But if they break the $1,000 price point, um, that's going to be hard to swallow. Um, because the 100 to 400 now is what, 1,500 bucks, maybe 1,600. So this is basically half that focal length. I'm not saying it should be half the price, but that would be nice. But okay, I think I'll end it here. Um, Randy needs money for his hot rod car. Yeah. Yeah, it was kind of neat seeing your Murata on your YouTube channel. Randy has a YouTube channel here, if you guys didn't know. Um, so that's awesome. Yeah, that was cool seeing your Marauder. Uh, I just love cars too. When I look, well, anyway, let's not talk about cars, but I love cars too. So you guys have a great Easter Sunday or Sunday weekend, what's left of it. I really appreciate you taking time, spend it with me today. It's always a treat for me. And I'll be back on Tuesday, most likely with a photo editing session, and we'll edit some photos and see. Okay. But either way, you guys have a great weekend. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you again soon. Hmm. I don't have an end button here. I need to figure this out before I do the next stream. What's this do? Nope. What's that do? Nothing, 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 nothing. I'm an idiot. Where's the stop button? How about this one?